when she died that she was never lost any of her teeth, but she never used nothing but a gum stick that she'd take. I'd go out and help her get them. A gum stick, chew the end of it, and make little brushes out of it. And she had a little bit of glass. She keeps soda in, and she keep them down in, and that's what she brushed her teeth with. And she kept pretty white teeth, even though she was dip snuff. And that's the way she would take care of her teeth. And
well, how were they about disciplining the kids? Were they real strict, or y'all just automatically knew and stay out of the way and be quiet? How did that, about looking after all those kids, how to keep them all under control?
well, my mother, she didn't do much whipping or anything like that, but she would tell Dad, and Dad would. He had a little thing he called a razor strap. He sharpened his razor on it, and it had two straps. And it had a little metal thing at the top where he'd hang it up on a nail, and it had two straps on the thing. It had, I guess, one for fine sharpening, one for coarse sharpening or something, but that's the way he'd sharpen his old straight razor. And that was his whipping too, and it was saved him a lot of effort with that many kids, because he'd take that thing, he'd swing it, and the first slap would hit you. Then here come the second one hit. He only have to make one sling and hit you twice with that thing. But I always started squalling real loud before he ever hit me with it, make him think he'd hurt me, you know, and I think he'd bet up on me a little bit. I got quite a few of them things myself. I guess I deserved every one of them. But my mother, I don't remember her ever whipping anybody. I know she used to, tell him, and he would do it later. But we got plenty of whippings.
Well, what about, like, for example, Jeff asked about holidays. Of course, we already know that 4th of July was the main holiday. But didn't y'all, like at Christmas, what did y'all do?
We didn't do much of anything Christmas because we didn't have the money, but sometimes we would wake up and in our shoes, we'd find maybe a little candy, hard candy. But when we went to school, Miss Delphine Noreen was a teacher of her age school, and bless her heart, she would try to see that all the kids that didn't have anything at least get a little paper bag of candy. I had one, and that would probably be all we would get for Christmas. But we had Christmas party at the school.
Yeah.
We did celebrate Christmas at school. We had us boys would go down in the woods and cut a Christmas tree, and we'd drag it and put it up, and we'd decorate it with our homemade decorations like popcorn, stringing popcorn and stuff like that, and fix decorations. We would have a pretty tree, and we did one year. Had a Christmas that I will never forget.
What?
Well, back when I was a little fella, going to school, age school, there was some people that lived down towards Sloan's Crossing. Trenton mentioned on his tape when he said Sloan's Crossing, on the right down there, that they had a daughter that taken polio, and she couldn't walk. It crippled her. These people were, I guess if it was possible, was even poorer than we were. And our teacher, Miss Delphine Noreen, thought it would be a good idea if we could do something for her for Christmas. So she wrote it on a piece of paper and wrote out the girl's name and what was the matter with her, her problem, and it given us permission to go around over the country and collect donations for that girl for Christmas, little girl. So a bunch of us boys each had a paper, and we hit the road. Back then we had CC camps, and around there, and me and Harvard Meredith, he helped me. I mostly stayed with him, on this project, and we went around to these houses and CC camps, and anywhere we could get even a penny, We walked and we walked every day. We went down in the Door Valley at, Trenton called it the Door Pond, which it was, but it was in what we known as Door Valley, old Greg Door. We went to his house, and we got, oh, it's like $2 or $3, I guess, or something. He had a sister. I believe it was his sister lived in another house in the Door Valley. We went to that house, and these people were wealthy. They had more land they knew what to do with. And she gave us 3 pennies. But we accepted. 3 pennies was 3 pennies more than we had before we stopped there. We'd take anything we could get. We worked and worked on that, and come Christmas time, Santa Claus come out behind the curtain. They had a curtain up on the stage. Rolling in a wheelchair, brand new wheelchair. And of course this girl seen it and she knew the reason it was her. She come as crying. And we had her a brand new wheelchair. We had her bedroom shoes, pajamas, house coat, and all of that stuff. And this was for this girl that never dreamed of ever having anything like that. I don't even remember the people's name. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's great.
And
But anyway,
that was a big Christmas.
Yeah, that was great. But you mean the grandpa and grandmother never made an extra effort for any holidays like Thanksgiving or Easter? I mean, this was just another day. Didn't they make any mention of it or anything? What about birthdays? What did they do about y'all's birthdays?
Try to forget it. No, we didn't have no birthday parties. No, not really.
I know, but didn't they say, well, happy birthday to you?
No. No.
Nothing?
I don't remember anybody ever saying happy birthday to me.
I know Uncle Trenton said there's definitely no, affections towards your kids. Of course, it's understandable that many, but didn't grandmother ever try and make an effort to one of the kids, usually? And a family, there's always one favorite.
She did to me.
How did that come about?
First, I'd like to say about the holidays. Trenton, he's on the impression that our mother died in September, but she died in November.
Right.
It was either Thanksgiving Day or the day after Thanksgiving she died. And also, I could be wrong, but I've been all these years thinking our mother cooked our breakfast that morning, because I remember big biscuits on the table. I remember the steaming breakfast, and I don't think any of us ate. But I believe, Trenton, if I understood right, my hearing's bad. I believe he said Dad cooked breakfast because our mother didn't feel good. But I believe he's mistaken. I mean, I stand to be corrected if I'm not right. But I believe he's mistaken. Our mother cooked breakfast and went in there and sat down in a rocking chair and died. Right after Trenton. Trenton's right about her sitting in a rocking chair and taking her to the bed. That part. But I think she cooked breakfast. Now, what was we talking about now? You said we'd tell.
About if you ever have any,
oh yeah, well,
favorites you ever, look after, one of the kids.
After, when, this is getting back in hard times again. After Harry and Gladys got married, they were living up at the place called Showmont. And Harry was working on the farm for something like $1 a day, I believe, but he was getting commodities, what they call commodities, and they had to be picked up over to Mammoth Cave, old historical entrance part of Mammoth Cave. And he couldn't go get them, and he had me to go get them, and that's how I learned to spell Mattingly, M-A-T-T-I-N-G-L-Y. Now, Noreen and them, I don't think knows anything about this. It was before. I mean, they don't know about it. And I would go and pick up the commodities for Harry and Gladys and bring them back. I know that some of the stuff smelled so good, and I would be so hungry, but I didn't dare to touch nothing. And at this place is where I got commodities for them every once a week. I'd walk to Mammoth Cave and get them and walk back. And from this place, they moved to Louisville. Harry got a job in Louisville, and that's when they went to Louisville and left the country. Well, they moved on an old open bed truck, stake body truck, and I went to Louisville with Gladys, and I rode on the back of that truck with the furniture to stay and kind of help Gladys get her house straightened up and get organized. And Harry was working, public work, he couldn't help her. And I don't know whether I was going a week or 2 weeks or what, but anyhow, when things got okay, Gladys and Harry bought a ticket, put me on a train, and put me under the care of a conductor. He was, to see that I was okay and get off at Park City. I hear a song or something. And when I got to Park City, Gordon met me there at the railroad station, and me and him walked home. Now, what I'm getting at, after I got home, my mother was in the kitchen, and I wanted to know where she was, and she come over to the table, and she sat down. She said, "How was Louisville?" I said, "Big, big." "Well, how did it look?" I said, "Bright." I said, they got lights all over that place. I said, they're everywhere, outside and everywhere. I said, it just lights up. Night looks like the daytime. I never seen nothing like it, I didn't. Living back in the country where they didn't even have electricity, And she talked to me about Louisville, I guess, roughly 15 minutes. And I really enjoyed her talking to me. And I'll be honest with you, that's the only time I know of that she ever sat down and just talked to me. 15 minutes. I can remember in my lifetime. She, I guess, just had so much to do she couldn't take up no time. But I never was one time told that I was loved, I was cared for, or anything by anybody. As I know of, I don't ever remember. They just, like Trenton said, I didn't do it. That's why I like to tell you and Margaret, I love you.
Well, what about Gordon? I know that he was the problem child from time go. Didn't him and Uncle Trenton always kind of have a problem? Didn't he sort of have a nickname, Uncle Trenton? And why did he call him that nickname?
He called him Good Thing. Gordon couldn't talk plain, at one time, and he couldn't talk. I know one time before we moved to Mammoth Cave, they used to fix playhouses. And I don't know where this place was. Now Trenton probably knows. It was sort of like a hill here and a hill going like a V shape. Trenton was over here. Gordon was over here. Each one of them had a playhouse. They may make their playhouses. I know I was out there at the time, and Gordon said, "Hey, Good Thing." "What?" "Come over here, I got something for you, Good Thing." So Trenton went running over as hard as he could. Boy, he's gonna go get something. He got it. Gordon jumped on and beat the fire out of him, running back across the little ravine, whatever it was, over there. I never will forget that. I don't know whether Trenton remembers that now, but Gordon just beat the snot out of him. Gordon beat him up. He called him Good Thing because Gordon was jealous. He thought that Trenton got more attention from his mother than he should have, or he got, or something, and he called him Good Thing. He meant to say good thing, but he's a good thing. I know he really fixed Trenton up that time. But Gordon was mean with everybody, I guess, except me. I don't remember ever. No, I used to box with him. Trenton bought I think it was Trenton bought a pair of boxing gloves there, and one time, and I used to box with anybody I could get to put them gloves on with me, and I used to box around with Gordon. I know one time I put him on with him, and he was going at it pretty good, and he hit me upside the head, and I sat down, and it was dark as night. I didn't know why it got so dark. I got my eyes closed. I'd take my fingers and put a pair of my eyes was open. But he knocked me blind as a bat, and I couldn't see nothing. I know one time I got there with guarded. I thought I was pretty good, you know. And he got me turned sideways somebody. He hit me upside the head. I'm going to throw my weight over on one ankle, sprung my ankle. But yeah, Gordon was always a troublemaker. I know that big boys would go out in the fields to work, and he'd go with them, but he'd start a fight with them, and then he'd have an excuse to come to the house.
Well, what about the time that him and Uncle Trenton got into it at the dinner table?
Oh, that was Gordon. Trenton had a habit, you know, when he drank coffee. I'm going to tell on you, Trenton. You're going to listen to me, boy. He would stick his little finger up in there. I don't know whether he still does not. You can still get that finger up there, Trenton. And he drank coffee. He sat right in front of Gordon on the other side of the table. It didn't take much to set Gordon off. I mean, just a little bit, boy. He was ready to go. He got to look at Trenton's finger and he got mad, you know. Hey, get that down there, you sissy or something, you know. But he threw a big old biscuit at Trenton, and he hit Trenton's coffee. When he did, the coffee just went up like that. So here they went right over the table and locked hooks right over the table, just, you know. Dad, we had a big old wooden box at the back of the cook stove. He just gets up and doesn't say nothing. Goes over and gets him a stick of wood. He comes back, bam, bam. Broke up the fight. Sat back down. Everybody finished eating.
I like that.
Yeah.
What about,
I don't know what he ever done about his fingers.
well, what about the time what was going on when Gordon hit Uncle Trenton with a hammer? I think he was a witness to that one.
Oh yeah, Trenton said something about Gordon hitting him in the head with a hammer, but Trenton didn't tell that he was running like a scared deer when Gordon hit him with a hammer. He was going across the place to what we call it. I believe we had terms sowed next to the locust orchard, and Trenton was boy, he was picking them up and putting them down, and that hammer hit Trenton right back here in the back of the head, and it glanced off his head and went up in the air. And that wasn't the only time Trenton got hit in the head either. He got hit in the head with a rock one time after that.
Where did that?
One of the handsome boys, me and Trenton was over there, and we was, I believe it was in the front yard swinging or something on their swings, and Boots and Coy, me and Trenton. And I don't know, something happened, but Coy, I believe it was, said something to Trenton, and Trenton slapped him or something, and Coy picked up a rock and hit Trenton in the head with it. Then their mother, I believe her name was Mammoth or something like that, she come to the door and run me and Trenton off, told us to get on home. So we left. We had to come back by Earl Hanson's place, and down behind Earl Hanson's place, between his place and ours, was what they called a woodlot, and in that woodlot was a swamp area, where it's just marsh, you know, swamp water, black-looking water. I got Trenton down there, and he had that place, he was just, blood was just pouring his on top of his head with breathing and blood. I got him down on his back and stuck his head down in that swamp and that water and washed that blood. I don't know if it was one of you hadn't taken poison or some kind of poison in that place to kill him, but I washed his head in swamp water. And I guess it healed up okay, as far as I know it did.
Well, is that during the time period that Grandpa and Gordon got into it?
You mean about the time Dad shot Gordon?
Yeah. What started
No,
that?
that
Do you remember?
Trenton wasn't there then. I don't know where Trenton was, but anyhow, Gordon threw a big rock. It was a big rock, and he hit Dad on his left chest here. And I had been up there to the schoolhouse, and I heard screaming down at the house. Everybody just started screaming like they had a death in the family or something. And so I started trotting pretty fast because it wasn't that far. And I didn't get very far trotting until I hear a shotgun go off. Boom! So I got there in just a few minutes, and Ella run and met me and told me that Dad had shot Gordon. And I said, tell me what happened. He said, well, Gordon hit Dad with a rock, and Dad ran the house and got the shotgun and shot him. I said, where was Gordon at when he shot him? He said, he was running across the same place where Trenton got hit with a hammer, heading for the woods. And I said, well, did he fall or what? I said, no, he just staggered and kept going. So I went in the hallway where Dad kept his shotgun shells, and I got all the shotgun shells and I put them in my pocket in case Gordon circled back around. They wanted to have some more shooting. I didn't want. I'd taken the shotgun shells away from Dad. So I started hunting Gordon, going through the woods. I made a circle back around to the old age schoolhouse, and I found him laying up there in one of the school seats on his belly. And I pulled his shirt up and his breeches down and got some of the shots out of his back. Just picked him out, but he wasn't hurt bad.
So what happened when he went back to the house?
He didn't go back for a while. I don't know where he laid out for a while somewhere.
And Grandpa cooled down and everything was okay?
Once he done that, he was all right. After he got through frosting at the mouth, well, he was pretty mad when I got there.
Then he really, when he got really mad, he really got really mad. I mean, really.
Yeah, he was frosted at the mouth. Slobber come out of his mouth, and it just, yeah. I made him. He did like that with me one time.
That's wasn't long after Grandmother died, wasn't it?
He did.
We're getting to that after a while, because we've got some other stuff. We'll kind of finish up with that later. But then Grandpa kind of got, before y'all moved there, somebody almost killed him?
Yeah, he got cut up real bad. It was, I was young, he was very young at that time. A fellow by the name of Carl Jordan cut him. I think, way I understand, two men held his arms around a tree while Carl cut him this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and went into the holler in several places. And back then it was in July, but every first of July or somewhere around the first they'd have a cold spell, and they give him credit for the cool spell helping to save his life. They used to have to run gauze strips in his chest and soak up the blood to keep him from drowning and pull him out. And he had, I guess the day he died, he still had those scars across his chest.
Well, why would they try to kill him? Did you ever find out why?
Not really. I never did know exactly why, but see, Dad was a gambler, and he would mess with whiskey and liquor, and when you get into that, there's always some reason to get into trouble one way or the other. I mean, I figure that
but nothing was ever done about it, or it's told the law, or?
Well, back then, law didn't do much about fighting and stuff, but it was just a common thing.
Yeah. Well, what about, then later on, then like you told Jeff about the pig bit, that's after y'all moved to Cave City, wasn't it?
No, not the pig.
Yeah.
No, that was I say it was Warren Smith's place. I don't know what Trenton him says, but that was the big boys. There's two stories about that. I'll tell that and about the pig first.
Yeah.
They was working for Roscoe Benson. He was a wealthy farmer, had lots of land, lots of money. And Dad and the bigger boys were, I believe, clearing up some ground for him, cutting timber, trees, and cutting probably up into wood and burning the brush, that type thing. And I don't know, when it come into the week, Roscoe didn't pay Dad as much as he's supposed to, and kind of shortchanged him a little bit. Dad said, you owe me some money. He said, I don't owe you no money, you got it. He said, if you don't give it to me, I'm gonna get one of your pigs there. He had hogs all over the place. Roscoe said, well, if you can get one of my pigs without me knowing, you go ahead and get it. He said, okay. They went ahead and worked that day, and that night, Dad just stepped out there in the cornfield, got him a ear of corn. He walked up there to think he shelled that corn, you know. And he reached down and put his hands right over the pig's nose, and like that, held his nose so he couldn't squeal. Picked that pig up, put him under his arm, taking him home. And he built a pen right out there in the front of the house, right next to the road. And he put that pig in it, and Roscoe used to ride by there on his mule, you know, go up and down the road on a mule. We didn't live far from where he lived. Dad would, if he was out there in the yard, he'd be point at that pig, and Roscoe would go by, and the pig go, old Roscoe never said nothing about it. Dad kept that pig. But at that same place, I remember Rumson, Dad wasn't working over there that day. Rumson and the big boys were working over there, older than me. And I was over there with them, and we started back to the house. It was quitting time, and there's something else I'm going to tell about that too. We got halfway to the house, and they said, well, we left our file and water bucket. And I wouldn't know if I'd go back and get them. I said, yeah, I'll go back and get them. So I got back over and I had to come back through a field, and I was thinking about snakes. And I'm going to get snake bit if I don't watch it. So I thought, well, I'll put that bucket on my arm, and I'll peck on the bottom of that bucket with a file, and I'll scare them snakes away while I'm running. So the faster I run, the harder I beat, you know, because I want to make a lot of racket. And I got up with him. I handed Rumsey the file and the bucket, and he picked that bucket up. It looked like a sifter or something. He just pitched the bucket over the bushes. I done beat the bottom out of it. But that was the same place where Gordon had been working over there with him, and he had started another fight. And he went to the house, and we had a fireplace there, and it had some hot coals. No, I had a fireplace, and my mother had heated some flat irons on the fire there somewhere, and she had those irons sitting on the hearth. And we was over there, and we heard all the squalling we ever heard in our life. And Gordon had backed up barefooted and put his heel against one of those hot irons, and he come out in the yard screaming like he died. And everybody quit work and run over there, and all he had was a scorched heel. But at that same house, now a girl, Ruby, Ella was a little bitty girl, and we did get some Christmas there. But I remember Ella got a little bugle. Go toot, toot, toot. And Gordon had slipped and got it, and he went in the room there where the trunk was that they were talking about on the tape, you know, Wells' trunk, family trunk. Gordon got over behind that trunk, and he would raise up, toot, toot, and he ducked down behind it. Ella's in there hollering, I want my bugle, I want my bugle. And he'd raise up, toot, toot, and he ducked down, you know. And back then, that big cast iron trying to talking about they did divorcing him, or made hominy in it and everything, you know. They had that sitting in there. They'd take red hot coals out of the fireplace and fill that thing up with red hot coals to keep the room warm at night. But the fire had died out and wasn't nothing in it but ashes. And Ella said, I want my bugle. So Gordon raised up, and she had her hands in the ashes. And when he went, she threw them ashes right over the top of that trunk and hit Gordon right in the face. He filled up his eyes and here he goes, but he's throwing a fit. But Ella got her bugle, and but he threw a fit.
In other words, Grandpa.
That was the same trunk that Trenton's got today.
Yeah, what you talking about? Of course, I don't know if it's still in it. But grandmother collected buttons. Jeff maybe.
In that trunk, she had a jar that had buttons that went back, way back, I guess the 1912 war or something, especially the Civil War. There's overcoat buttons and different things. And I used to, once she was sewing, I used to sit on the floor and I'd pour those buttons out. To me, they looked like money. I liked to play with them. And she would tell me, I believe if I could see them, I could pick out her daddy's button off of her daddy's overcoat today, if it's still there. But those buttons, I was hundreds of years old, some of them, and gosh, yes, she did. She saved those buttons, and I used to love to look at those buttons because I could seem like I could just almost take myself back in the past.
Yeah. But anyway, like Uncle Trent said, and none of the kids kept recording ever talk back to Grandpa. Is that true? I mean, what he said, he always, automatically hush, because he was apparently rather quick-tempered too, wasn't he?
He was very high-tempered, and yeah. But there comes a time in your life sometimes when you have to stand up on your own.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little further, but let's leave that to it. Wow, because, like Uncle Trenton said, it's sort of a quick thing about grandmother dying. But wasn't there an accident or something about a few days or a week or so before she died? An injury, and you kind of wondered if that could happen?
Yes, Gordon. Yes, it was.
I think you should tell that.